they're like, yeah, I know how to get to Lemuria. You just put the crystal under your pillow and then you can go to Lemuria. And in the way that he described it was like they all knew. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Orphic. My name is Alyssa. I'm an astrophysicist. I just got my PhD. My specialty is in supermassive black holes and galaxy evolution. And what I'm doing now is trying to understand the consciousness and energetics and astrophysics of the universe, applying spirituality to astrophysics. And that's what I'm doing on my Instagram. Please follow me at interdimensional.astrophysics. And that's what I'm doing on this podcast. So throw it over to you. Hey,
I'm Mikayla with Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. I'm an empathic medium and intuitive energy healer. I do past life regressions, soul activation readings, energy medicine, and energy attunements. And I'm here to help shift the collective consciousness into the new paradigm of healing and send out that ripple effect from us to the rest of the collective into Mother Gaia, and eventually shifting and moving our way into the 5D frequency and the new Earth frequency to root our new paradigm there and bring in that shift of the collective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we like to start every episode with a little bit of a grounding in, breathing exercise. So Mikayla will lead us off on that, and let's just kind of tune in and get a little calm and present together.
Yeah, so take a second if you're able to put your feet flat on the floor. Let's even do hand on your heart and close your eyes. And we're going to take some really big, deep releasing breaths. So let's take a big, deep breath in, filling your lungs all the way to the top. Pause at the top. Open your mouth and release. Let it go. Let's do another breath just like that, filling your lungs all the way to the top, up, up, up. Pause. Open your mouth and release. Letting go of anything heavy, anything that might be weighing you down, letting it go with the breath. Let's do one more really big breath in, breathing beautiful white light into your heart, into your body, pausing at the top. And when you're ready, opening your mouth and releasing any excess heaviness, anything that does not belong to you, anything that's not serving you, releasing it with the breath. Then slowly and gently bring yourself back into this space.
I'm back. Are you back?
Hello. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yes.
So how's it going?
Good. I'm tired today a little bit.
Yeah.
I was pretty close. This thought did go through my head to be like, I don't know if I want to do this today, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
But I was like, I can show up. I can show up. Just figuring out a new routine kind of in my life. We just went through the Aries new moon eclipse, followed by
eclipse. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about this eclipse energy a bit because I got a lot to say. But yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Followed by the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. One of the signs that it mostly affects is Scorpio, and usually too when astrologers are not always, usually they're referring to your sun sign and your rising sign. Like if they do a video and like, this is for blah, 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 like it's your rising sign too. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't even know what their rising sign is. Some people are like, how do you have more than one sign? go listen to our astrology episode.
Yeah, we do have an episode on astrology.
We do our
Yes.
knowledge of it. Neither of us are astrologists by any means. Like, I'm just learning. Even with my ongoing client the other day, she's like asking me questions. She's like, well, so what does this mean? What does this mean? And I'm like, truthfully, no idea.
Yeah.
Like, your guess is as good as mine. Like, I know like some basic stuff, but I'm still learning as I go. Still learning what I need to know as I go. But I do know that one of my friends has a very similar chart to me,
really?
which is like really, my friend Carlin that does like neuroscience stuff. We're definitely going to have her on one time. She has a very similar chart to me, which is awesome because she keeps me updated on this shit. Like, she'll be like, this is what's happening for us and us. Cause she is, she's a Scorpio sun, a Scorpio rising, and a Virgo moon. And I am a Sagittarius sun, and she's a large Sagittarius in her chart too. And I'm a Scorpio rising and a Virgo moon. So our moons and our rising signs are the same. Which, like, also then a lot of the things when they pertain to your rising sign too is talking to both of us, as well as how we process emotions with our Virgo. Our moon being in Virgo is similar, and a bunch of our other placements are also like the same. Like, we literally only have like 2 placements that are different.
Yeah, and like part of these eclipses or transits or whatever, it's like it follows. It usually illuminates a certain part of your chart, right? And like these things like activate a certain theme in your life, right? So I guess if you guys have some overlapping things like that, you have like active themes at the same times.
Yeah, or even just like being able to relate how like our placements process different things and kind of move through different things, or even just the same thing is coming up at the same time. But it's interesting because this is like a life-changing transformational eclipse, and the most affected sign is Scorpio, is us. So that was interesting. But it was really interesting because we kept going back and forth, and she'd message me, she'd be like, how you doing? Anything happening? And I'm like, honestly, I actually feel pretty good. So that was interesting. I felt like I went through the eclipse feeling pretty good, but we also had company over for the weekend. But I feel like with the new moon Aries, like kind of the things that needed to be brought up kind of got brought up before that. And now following it the last couple days, nothing big has happened, but I have felt like maybe a little bit of like anxiety and overwhelm in the body, which is interesting because I feel like when the actual like the day of the full moon, like the day before and the day after, I was actually feeling quite calm and grounded. So,
was the full moon on Friday? The eclipse day, right? Yeah. I should know this.
Yeah.
I need a full moon for an eclipse.
May 5th.
Yeah.
And even though like the days go by so quick, like I can't believe it's already however many days into May. It'll be further along by this time this episode comes out and people are listening to it. But because I want to do this full moon eclipse workshop by this one guy, Stillwater Alchemy. I don't know if you've heard of him on YouTube. He's an astrologist. He's really good. And he had an Aries new moon eclipse that I had on my list to do. And the days went by and it was still on my list. And I was like, oh, I really want to do this. But now it's the full moon. And then I looked and he had on his YouTube, he had a full moon lunar eclipse workshop, which usually he doesn't put up these workshops. So I'm like, I really want to do it. But now I'm like, oh, it's already however many days after. But I still really want to try to make a point to do it. And I'm bringing it up because maybe it would be something that would be good for you too when it comes to releasing and letting things go in your life.
Maybe there's some things that I could release. But isn't that applicable to all of us? Yeah. No, that sounds good. There's a lot of things I want to be doing to assist my release. The theme is release right now. Damn.
Yeah, and with the lunar eclipse, it's very much this like, and in Scorpio, it's like, because eclipses are already about death and rebirth and transformation, and then Scorpio is about death and rebirth and transformation. So it's like this big like double whammy of just like woof energy. So it's very much like I've seen many of the astrologers talking about like this time is a funeral for your old self.
Yeah.
And like you're bringing like a real funeral for your old self, and you're bringing in your new self. So I've really been feeling into that and calling in like, who is my new self? Who do I want her to be? And also and like the biggest part is, am I willing to let go of the past version of myself?
I just got major chills on that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely the theme.
Yeah. So
that's a good way to put it too. It's like, yeah, we don't often ask ourselves that. It's just, I feel like when these changes happen, it's just like, oh, everything's changing so much. And it's like, oh, I'm like different. But I don't know, there is a level of consciousness that could be brought to it to make it a little bit less like, it feels like you're just like waves are kind of constantly coming and crashing into you, and you're just like, you're in the ocean and you just stand up and just get knocked down by another wave, like just tumbling over. Like that's how it's felt for me recently. So it's a lot, but yeah, you don't have to get totally lost in it like the wave.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's what we talk about in a lot of our other episodes too, with even just nervous system regulation and having the tools, and like the analogy or the metaphor or whatever you want to call it that I really like is like learning how to surf the waves instead of drowning in them, because life is the waves, like life is the ocean, right? So the ocean is sometimes, still and calm, and sometimes it's choppy out there, but you can't control the ocean, you can't control life, you can't control the tides of the ocean. So it's having the proper equipment and the tools to be able to surf the waves instead of drown and die in them. Hey, but you know what, maybe sometimes you're supposed to drown so that you can have your death and rebirth moment. I don't really know.
Sometimes you gotta.
Yeah. So even, so going into the transformation piece, I do feel a shift of moving in to like a new person, but I think right now there's maybe some like anxiety and overwhelm of just exactly how that's going to look, and like actually like stepping into that person. I know a few things like relationship stuff came up for me big time, and I feel like Bryce and I have had really good talks around that, so I'm happy that I was able to like release that. And I don't know if I said this on the last episode or not, but I remember there was a moment where he even said like because we were talking about things, and I was kind of like digging and stuff because I'm a Scorpio or a Scorpio rising, and I'm intense and I like intensity, and I like to like go there, which is also some really interesting revelations I've had about myself, because I think that's a part of myself I used to try to hide or filter when I was younger. And I had this realization of just like, no, like I'm intense and I like that part of me. And also I want you to meet me there. Like I want you to be able to hold space for me so that I can go there, because I'm done hiding this part of myself or pretending that this part of myself doesn't exist anymore. I'm done sacrificing myself for others. I'm done sacrificing myself for you, quote unquote you. But like, and that was a huge theme of the like eclipse season 2 and finding yourself in relationships. But once I did some deeper of my digging, Bryce even made a comment of, well, maybe I'm afraid to let go of my past self. And I was just like, ooh, yeah, like there is fear
very real
around that,
very real. And
then holding space for that too, and not, and being gentle and like not judging that. But yeah. And so for myself, even a new version of me is I haven't smoked cannabis in 4 weeks today, a whole month, which is like a pretty big deal, honestly.
It is, especially if it's really something that you feel like you have felt a call towards, and you know that it's not been necessarily like I'm stopping and now I'm, it was not something from the ego, or not even necessarily from the ego, but just like making a decision and sticking to it for the sake of sticking to it, right? It's kind of just been a continual intuitively guided thing, right?
It kind of just
Yeah.
happened, to be honest, which is weird in a lot of ways. But I think there's also a piece of me that was calling it in, and then it just like happened, and now I'm choosing to stick with it. Not that I won't ever again, because I know I will. I definitely believe in a lot of the healing properties of that specific plant. But I guess there's also this piece of me, I think, that just, yeah, it's calling it a new version that wants to be really present and really clear.
Totally.
Yeah. And like, I don't know when the last time was that I probably hadn't in that amount of time. Like, I probably not for like 6-ish years. I probably haven't like taken that big of a break. And that was only because I was working for an oil field company and they were going to drug test me. So I like stopped for like 6 months just to be safe. And also it was my dad's company. So like I really didn't want to really didn't want to get that.
I feel like there's,
or not his company, but the company he worked for.
I feel like there's another piece of it too that is like having an understanding that there's a bigger picture that you don't necessarily, and surrendering to the bigger picture of it all, in the sense that you might not necessarily know why this is what you're being called to do right now. And you don't know, like maybe it's for right now, maybe it's for longer, but it's like surrendering to the fact that maybe that something bigger is going on that is needing you to be this way for right now. And just like, you know, with these things and stopping these things. And I know I'm very much like that too. I really freak out about the finality of things and like saying like, oh, I'm stopping something. And it's like, we don't have to necessarily think of it in terms of, in such final terms, or in such like, I'm going to see how, if I can just stop for this amount of time. And we're so accustomed to going into that linear time frame, but it's like switching to more of a now mentality. It's like, what if you can you just say like, this is what I'm being guided to do right now for some reason, and not, you know, attach any stipulations to it or attach any failure to it if you smoke tomorrow, like, you know.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's how the way it happened is exactly what she said. Like, I didn't say, oh, I'm stopping tomorrow, and I'm just not doing it. Like, I actually just had a few days where I just was like, no, I'm good. Like, I had like a couple weeks where I was just like, no, I'm good. Like, I actually don't have the desire. It was really interesting. And now since then, there's been like a few times I come up that I have the desire, but since I already haven't for so long, it's way easier to feel into, no, I'm still okay. And it's also, like you said, it's not a finality thing. I think I will weave a lot more with like the plant spirit of this too, but this is just necessary for right now. And even to speak to how you said, like, you might not understand, or there might be more of a reason. I have got the intuitive hit that it is like for a cleanse. Like, there is an element of my body that's being cleansed right now and being prepared for something. And the intuitive hit feels like that might be a plant medicine ceremony. Not this plant medicine, but a different plant medicine. So we'll see.
Cool.
I right now I have no plans to go or anything scheduled to go to a plant medicine ceremony. But
I think you have no plans.
Yeah. But we will see. And yeah, that would make sense for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this
That would make sense.
Yeah, initial cleanse before.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, so I've been like,
What's up with you?
Yeah, I've been feeling this eclipse energy a lot. Like, I've had, I would say, definitely like in end of April to early May has been like almost like a mini dark night of the soul for me. Like, it's been maybe the most intense that it's been since I finished my PhD in December.
Wow.
And it's just a lot of things are coming up. It's just so cool seeing everything kind of confirmed and reflected in the collective on Instagram and stuff like that. Like, a lot of things I've just seen are just a lot of people are saying the change is like rapid right now. Like, rapid change.
It is
in the last few weeks, and I'm feeling that too. It's like, I had like a few little mental breakdowns like last week. The week of the eclipse, just it becoming extremely paralyzed in fear that I won't be able to hold this next version of myself, that I won't be able to, afraid of what it's going to look like, or just, afraid that I won't be able to handle it, I think was what the breakdown was.
Yeah.
And knowing, and because I know it's going to be so big and different and big, it's like a lot of big things are happening. Just completely like feeling completely pulverized like a diamond under the pressure, like completely crumbling under the pressure. And I think that's just a byproduct of the in-between stage, when you're in between these versions of yourself. And that clearly is the theme, and that's clearly like what's happening. But yeah, it was like I had to just like let myself be really afraid, because it's like, what am I gonna do? Like gaslight myself and say like, it's fine. Like, no, like I had to just let myself be like, feel very afraid of this next version. And I'm feeling a bit better now. But yeah, it was like a lot has gone on, and I went to go visit my school, and I had to kind of be this one version of myself there. But yeah, I want to talk about some other like kind of cool things, like growth or like conversations I had with some friends. Like I just took a trip up to Massachusetts for a week, but I also just like kind of like synchronistic things combined with extreme growth. But I wanted to first tell this story of like me and my brother, a very like synchronistic, what felt like a very like 5D New Earth interaction. So, like these days, in terms of my friends in real life that really understand any of the stuff that I'm talking about, like ever, it's none. It's, in terms of the friends, I guess it really is almost none. Real life friends, besides you, who you are a real life friend, but you're just across.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, okay, thanks.
Thanks. So it's you. And other than that, what was just so crazy about this story was that it was like encountering someone in real life. Anyway, so I just have like really basically my siblings and my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Who really understand any of the stuff that I'm into, and that all the things about this podcast. So my brother was home this past weekend, and he has been going to these I would say the other places that I feel divinely connected to people are now, of course, like at the Kundalini yoga studio. That is another, because it feels similar to this place that I went to with my brother, because it's like places that whenever you're in those four walls, you have to have, odds are I'm gonna be more aligned with those people on like a spiritual level, or just more on the same page about things to be able to connect.
Yeah, it's just like a high vibrational energy in those places, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been great going to the Kundalini studio, because then, people are awesome there. But so that's basically it, other than that, in person, it's like, it's hard to find your tribe. We're also just in the beginning of things changing.
Yeah.
Like, I think we definitely will find our tribe more in person. It's right now, the tribe is energetic, right? The tribe is, online, but I do feel like I have a growing connections and everything there, which is beautiful. But so basically there was this, so my brother David has gone to a few places in New York City that are like, it's called like a kava bar. So you said you didn't know what kava is, right?
No, I don't.
I still like don't really
is.
understand. It's,
I feel like I've heard it. We should have Googled it or something.
It's some sort of natural something, herb or something. But I think it has sort of, it has like, I think an uplifting effect, or it has like a very calming effect. And so there's these places, I think, popping up in New York City, and the whole thing is like it's kind of like an alternative to drinking in the sense that you feel like some sort of like effect from this kava and this other thing called kratom, which I have tried before, which is also, it's sort of in the coffee family. So these places are like coffee and alcohol like alternatives, just a way, these natural things. Overall goal would be like energy uplifting, mood uplifting, and like relaxing, like full body relaxing effect. They also had at this place like ashwagandha and CBD. So just kind of in that family, you know. So of course, so my brother looks up this place on Long Island that is kind of near us, and so we go in there, and I had never tried any of this other stuff. I just got like a CBD drink because I didn't want to like mess around with anything really. But already it was just so funny how it was in this town that is like right next to a town that we go to all the time. It was in this town called Green Lawn on Long Island, and we just have never been to this town ever. And so we were like making this joke like when we
Wait, I'm sorry. Does Long Island has towns? I thought it was just like houses everywhere.
Oh yeah, it has towns. It's not, well, I mean,
Or are they separate from each other?
yeah, like there's some towns that like that have like parallel parking, and like you can walk around, and there's like a bunch of restaurants like all next to each other. So it's like a bunch of like it's mostly like big parking lots and stuff like that, and like kind of just, I don't know how to describe that, but there's some like little pockets that are a little bit more concentrated that you could like park and walk around. There's some like little cuter pockets.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's all residential and everything too. So first off, It was just funny that it was in this town that we're like making this whole joke as we're going there, like, wow, like I didn't even know this place existed. Like it felt just like it existed in this little hidden bubble pocket of, we were like, wow, why have we never been to this town before? It's like right here. So that was funny. And then so we go in there, and it was super chill. There are like tons of Palo Santo and sage and all this stuff. It smells great. And they had and so the lady's giving us kind of the lowdown on the menu, whatever. And they had these beautiful like oracle card decks. And so immediately it was just really cool being in a place where it's like, wow, this is like my kind of place. Like immediately I see 3 oracle card decks. One is a tarot deck. One is some other oracle card deck, and then 2 other are just general oracle card decks, but one was like Lemuria. One was a whole oracle card deck about Lemuria. And so for some context, Lemuria is this ancient civilization that I think originated around, was maybe preceded Atlantis, but I think now
it was before Atlantis.
Yeah, it was before Atlantis. Now it's underwater, but it's still in this realm of, anyone that really knows about Lemuria would like have to very much be a starseed, and very much my understanding of it is that it was one of the first civilizations that like it was a part of this whole like starseed collective mission to bring souls into Mother Gaia and to raise the frequency of the planet.
Yeah, Lemuria was very, maybe we'll have to do some episodes on just like Atlantis and Lemuria and stuff. But when we think of ancient civilizations that, you know, have the technology, just were like also high vibrational ancient civilizations. I think we talked about this in like maybe some of our episodes, like the Ascension or the New Earth one. Yeah. I think we have ancient Egypt before us. Then Atlantis, and then before Atlantis, Lemuria. So I don't know. I think Atlantis fell around the like 26,000 year mark. I'm not.
Yeah, see,
or maybe it was 12,000. I'm not sure.
I really don't know anything about the timelines of things, because then I also get confused about like what's real and what's like etheric. I don't know. Like I don't really. I also don't have any grounded understanding of history and timelines with that. So I'm really bad with like the times of things, so it's very vague in my mind. But
yeah, it is with me too. And to be fair, They don't teach Lemuria
No.
and Atlantis in school.
This all of these, like, especially, yeah, this is the thing. Like, I differentiate Lemuria and Atlantis, and I've learned all that I know about them from channelers over the last few years. I started learning about them in 2020, and so I've just kind of gathered, pieced together information about them over the years. But from what I know, like, I do think that they were like a super long time ago, because I think they're, like Egypt, like, it was ancient Egypt was more so, I mean, maybe I could be wrong there. Ancient Egypt was more so like when the continents were where they are now, because I think that Atlantis and Lemuria were like where they were is currently underwater. So I think that was like a really long time ago. I could be wrong, but
I think so. I probably should sit and try to connect with this stuff, and then we could talk about it on another episode. That would be really good, because like I know I have, and I'm sure you too, but I know I have a lot of lifetimes in Atlantis, and I have Lemurian lifetimes too, because I've been here for a really fucking long time. I was one of the souls that was like, I volunteer as tribute from like the very beginning.
Yes. I know. I think I was too. I think I might have been here for a while. So yeah, some civilization, as far as I know, in both Atlantis and Lemuria, it was definitely very otherworldly. Like, the species there were a mix of humanoids and animals and all these other things, and I think they had like UFOs and crafts like moving around, and it was very futuristic, very different. Maybe I'm just describing Atlantis, but anyway,
in Lemuria,
I might just be describing Atlantis.
That's I think more Atlantis when I feel into Lemuria. If you want to know what
what do you know? I don't know much.
Lemuria, I think like super like ethereal, almost enchanting. Like I think of big like mountains where like water's almost coming down from the sky, like crystals of all different colors coming out of the earth, like mountains made of crystals, like very like there's definitely a technology, but I find it's more magical then, like the higher dimensions were more grounded. Was more grounded into earth at that time, because it was still a very much like we're living in tribes kind of thing, like not as much as the big cities. Like that was more Atlantis. Like we're living in tribes and we're very connected to Mother Earth and like chop wood, carry water type of thing, but also very like elevated in the way of like spirituality and just like that like I want to say magic, because I just get like such a magical like but grounded in sense of it. It's almost just like the soul of Mother Gaia was seen at this time, and we were so deeply connected and anchored in with her, and like co-creating and weaving our lives like with her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was very much like the souls that incarnated fully remembered their spirituality and their power and their abilities and everything. I think everything was much more innately tapped on than it is like now. We're more in a stage of remembrance and needing to like break through the veil of forgetfulness and everything. I think that in Lemuria it was like way more like bam, like everyone knows what's up.
Well, I mean, because I don't know the exact timelines on all of it either, but and we did talk about this on one of our episodes too, because when humans or the version of human or whatever first came to Earth, we actually had the ability to tap into all 12 dimensions, which is why humans are so like, we're so like unique. And then as the fall of Atlantis came and as we were enslaved by other species, I said it, that's when something happened there where our DNA began to go dormant, and we were on like the lower kind of end of the spectrum as far as like, I guess what dimensions our densities we were able to access.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But
lots to unpack there.
Yeah, let's definitely get into that more on another episode.
I'll write that down.
Yeah. So essentially though, really what I know of Lemuria is that it was like some starting point of starseed volunteers coming to raise the frequency and kind of coming to use their magical, connections to higher dimensions and everything, and embody that and live it. And so not everyone that you meet knows about Lemuria and Atlantis and stuff.
Definitely not.
And this is definitely things that, you have to really be on the same wavelength to talk about with anyone. But so I saw they had this amazing Lemuria card deck, Oracle deck. I need to order one because I think I'm going to, because the artwork, there was like also like 50 cards. It was like a ton of cards. It was a ton of cards. The artwork was so beautiful. It was like a combination of sacred geometry and just, oh my God, I don't even know. All the cards were so activating. Like, I love looking at things like that where it's like a geometry and shapes and pretty colors. And when you look at things like that, it's, the way I interpreted it is some sort of code for your brain and for your soul that doesn't make sense to you at a conscious level, but it makes sense to you at a soul level. So I love looking at things like that. And so yeah, we're pulling some cards. Oh yeah, and then I pulled some great cards for myself, and then I pulled a card for you that was yeah, so when I pull a card for myself, I connect my heart and my electromagnetic field to the deck. And then, when I pull a card for you, I like call in your team and I set the intention to pull one for you. Anyway, so the one that I got for you, it was throat chakra, but the artwork on the card was a blue butterfly, which is your thing.
Yeah, if anyone knows me, like, I'm obsessed with butterflies, and butterflies are just like my branding. Like, on any of my Instagram accounts, it's like the blue butterfly. Yep. And it's like the blue butterfly just like kind of follows me around on social media everywhere.
Yes.
As well as I have a tattoo of a butterfly like right on my sternum.
Oh,
which
yeah. Forgot about that too. Forgot about that.
Yeah, butterflies is very much my thing, because my work is very like the shadow work, metamorphosis, transformation, which the butterfly represents. But then even more, like, the butterfly emoji is blue, and that's I have that on all of my social medias.
Right.
It's probably my most used emoji. And yeah, the card you pulled was this blue butterfly.
Yeah, which
really
was
cool.
So cool. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. So that was an extra cool part. But so then anyway, we get into talking to one of the owners of the shop. He comes in, and so we're talking to him, and I think with all of these things, I assume that I kind of figured that if he like owns this place, and the place was so great, it had crystals around, there were like all these books around, like some Deepak Chopra books, like this Are You Psychic books, like just really awesome things that I was like, this place is great. And it was just so cool. It's just rare to like go into a business that is exactly your vibe. And it was like, wow, this is so cool. So so we're talking to him, and the thing is, this is just what was just so interesting about the whole thing is like, it's just so new to me to like meet new people in person and talk to any of them about this. Like, it's very new. Like, only time I really talk to people about whatever I'm into is my communities online, or like you and stuff like that. So it's just very new. And I'm hoping that we have these experiences more often, but it's very new to like start talking to someone, even if you could tell that they're spiritual, and you just don't know, like, are you guys, like, to what extent are you on the same level as this person? But so I'm like, yeah, these Lemuria cards are great. And he's like, oh yeah, like he's talking about Lemuria. And so as he's talking, I could kind of tell that he's definitely like really on our wavelength. And he is, and so then he started.
Wait, is this the owner?
Yeah, the owner of the shop.
Oh, wow. I mean, if this is a shop, I would imagine that he must be.
Right, exactly. And especially because of the Lemuria deck, but I still like wasn't sure because I don't know much about this kava stuff, or I just thought you never know like how deep into the rabbit hole someone is.
Yeah, and I guess we're also in this space, I think, of learning to navigate that. And this, I think, for both you and I, we're having these lessons and the opportunities to come up of the filter doesn't need to exist. Like we get to be our true selves all the time, and we can be, and like the magic that comes with shining our true selves. But we're navigating that because we were in a place, and maybe are still navigating that, where we feel like we need to have a filter, or we've had a filter in the past, or we talk about things with certain people and some with not, which still might come up a bit. But anyways, so I can see. So part of that may be just even an insecurity in us of like, it's like, when we're thinking, we're like, oh, are they on the same level? But it's more just like, if I start talking about this, is this person going to think I'm a fucking weirdo?
Exactly. Right. For all I know, it's like, I don't know what people know about Atlantis and Lemuria, because it does feel like such a small population of people that know the whole story to that, or and so I'm like, I don't know, what if you just thought it was like a cool looking card deck to have here, like, because tarot has a wider reach, tarot cards have a wider reach of people. Anyway, so he starts telling us about how his daughter like visits Lemuria, or I guess maybe we started talking about Lemuria a little bit before, and then I think my brother asked me something about it, and I gave some explanation. I was like, I'm pretty sure Lemuria, basically what we just said. I was like, oh, I think it was like the first wave of soul volunteers to raise the vibration. And then this guy's like, yeah. And I gave this like explanation. I was like, yeah, something before Atlantis, and then Atlantis fell, and then we had the rebuild up. And he was like, yeah, no, I think you described it pretty well. Yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So just kind of slowly like treading to be like, okay, like what is, and so then he's telling us this really cool story about how his daughter would say like, I've been to Lemuria like in my dreams, and how his daughter would have dreams of going to Lemuria and when she's like maybe like 7-ish years old. So we're talking age 7-ish here. And of course the children, the veil is thin, or they have more access to either prior memories, or they're just not so jaded by the world yet, so they feel more free in these things. And he was saying like, yeah, she said that she goes there, and she was like, and you were there too, and we were in this family, and what, yada yada yada. And I was like, oh cool, yeah, she's probably talking about like, I guess, other incarnations and stuff in Lemuria. And then he says that apparently she at this time too was saying how a lot of her friends at school also know about Lemuria, and that and then they had this whole thing. And I was like, I was in such disbelief when he was saying this. I was like, what? I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And they said they know how to get there, and they put the crystal under they're like, yeah, I know how to get to Lemuria. You just put the crystal under your pillow, and then you can go to Lemuria. And in the way that he described it was like, they all knew, like, and I was like, what?
That's crazy.
It was so cool. And he also said something, if I was following his story correctly, I think he said something about, again, I think this is all in the realm of kids that are like less than 10 years old. Some other kid like coming to meet his kids or something that didn't know them. Something to the effect of like this kid going up to another kid and like saying, oh my God, hey, like I know you, and like having a soul remembrance, like a past life remembrance in real time, and them knowing each other. That I think that's what he was describing. So, and I think it might have been from Lemuria too. A lot of stuff with Lemuria. The thing I was like most baffled by was when he was talking about how they all talk about it in school, and they're like, yeah, I know how to get to Lemuria. You put crystal under your bed at night, and then that's how it helps you get there. And I was like, what the fuck? So really cool stuff. I was mind blown.
Did he say which crystal?
No. Didn't.
You need to find these kids.
I know.
How do I get there?
And
no, this.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's just really. Yeah, it's really cool because it's this new wave of souls that are coming to the planet right now. And April Elizabeth has talked about this too, how a bunch of the new souls that are coming in right now, they're coming in without karma. So they're remembering things and they're not having these all this extra karmic and baggage to move through. Like that was more like us, like the indigo children and the rainbow children, I think. And now these souls are coming in to assist the planet in just another way. And it's just so cool to see that. Like they're just like born with this like undeniable remembrance.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, I don't know if kids were, if like when we were little, if that was happening, like, I've just never heard anything like that. And I do think it has to do with this newer wave of souls like that has either no karma or a lot less karma, to kind of go through these like work through layers. It's just like, it's more recent in their memory and it's more innate, I think, for them. So,
and also born into family, like supportive families that can hold space for that, because like this dad obviously isn't telling them, well, that's not true, or like that's your imagination, or that's like silly, right? Because
good point.
A lot of us had to work through that too, where like these things weren't real and they weren't to remember, and so you were just, as a kid, it's just like your silly imagination.
Yeah. Yep. Right. And it's like they had the dad that was accepting of it and that knew what Lemuria was and was like, and probably enforcing it, which probably helped them continue like this continuous journey of going to Lemuria when they sleep. So that was really cool. And then I'm asking him about Kundalini yoga. I was like, oh, are you into Kundalini? Like we're super into Kundalini. And he tells us this story about his, about how he had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, many years ago that happened, like a week after he started looking up Kundalini yoga and started doing Kundalini yoga. And usually, from what I understand of a Kundalini awakening, is some extreme, profound, full body experience that gives you some really deep, I've heard that it's unmistakable because, so sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, like, you've had moments of enlightenment, you've had deep connective moments. Some people are like, oh, like, have I had a Kundalini awakening? I've heard that if you've had a Kundalini awakening, you know it. I don't know. I've never had, and it's like it's an instantaneous, momentary thing. Sometimes your entire life shifts completely after that, or sometimes it's just a catalyst to a new level. But
Lucia said that too at her ranch. She was just like, oh, you'll know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's what I've heard. And crazy stories about it. Like sometimes you have like full body convulsions. Sometimes it's just completely like understanding that the universe is one and just a completely different perspective that you've never been able to really grasp before. So he's telling us about this whole thing about his Kundalini awakening. And then after the fact, we're kind of just talking about, he's like, I've had so many amazing experiences over the years. I used to tell my friends about them, but then, you just kind of just get the blank stares. And now I don't really tell them. I don't really tell anyone about them anymore. And he was like, and he says that the story of the Kundalini awakening that he just told us, he's like, I think I've only ever told that to like less than a handful of people. And we're like, we're here. And then me and my brother after the fact were like laughing about it. Because after the fact, we were just laughing about how amazingly divine and casual this whole thing was and how it was just so casual. He's like, I've only ever told that to 3 people before. And now you guys. It was just like, and definitely relate. And he's saying, I was saying I can, of course, relate to the fact that, he starts off telling people about these things and then people don't understand. And odds are you only have maybe a handful of people in your life, especially if this guy has been on this path. I'm pretty sure that Kundalini awakening, he said, was like 15 years ago or something. Oh, wow. So especially in that time, like 15, 20 years ago, of course, you're not going to have many people in your life that you can talk to about that. And I was like, I completely understand. It's really hard to find people that, understand. And he said he keeps a lot of these things to himself, but that he obviously enjoys owning now the kava bar. And he used to have a different kava bar for a few years in like 2016 that that stopped in the pandemic, and this one that we went to actually had just opened 5 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So he was saying too that he loves meeting people in these environments that understand it and everything, and it's kind of that's cool in itself too, that it's like he is creating a physical container of physical space of people that are more like-minded to gather.
Yeah, that's a really cool experience. And I think it's nice that you're able to have the moment of listening to him talk about how maybe he isn't able to talk about that with everyone. But at the same time, there's this real beauty in it, because you guys are sharing this moment of being able to talk about that thing that he doesn't usually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I know you and I have even been dealing with that a little bit of, we have some of our friend connections and people that we really love, but sometimes we don't feel like we can share our whole life or like talk about these things, you know, and that can just, it is sometimes frustrating. Like there's a level of just like, you know, surrender, release, and it's okay that we're all like living out our own paths and our own realities. But at the same time, I think this kind of stuff like sets our soul on fire, and this is very much our soul missions and our purpose, and like this is the direction that our life is heading in now, and like there's really no stopping that. Like the momentum keeps moving, and like we know that, and we're only becoming more aligned and stuff. So I mean, this is our whole life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like that was one of the things David, my brother, said like on our way out. There's one other really cool synchronicity about this whole kava bar thing that I'm gonna tell in a second. But David was kind of like, for one, he said, I didn't really notice, but he was like, you could just see like the relief in that guy's face, like when he was talking to us, like you could kind of just see like that, like some like relief of being understood, and that was awesome. And then he was just saying like these are the kinds of experiences that we need to get used to having, these amazing synchronistic experiences where we walk through a door and we have a beautiful aligned conversation and a beautiful aligned hour with people, and then we go about our day like that's normal. Like these kinds of amazing aligned experiences are the new norm, like it's hopefully going to be. So the last thing that was really crazy. So this guy, he's telling us how shortly after that's when we started talking, then I told him a little bit more about what I do, and that I just got my PhD in astrophysics, and I'm starting to share all of this stuff more, and it's a little bit scary to share it, but I've really been kind of like starting to build my career in that direction of just sharing this. And so he tells us how right before he came into the shop, like while we were already there, he was waiting for the train or something. He was sitting on a bench with this random guy. This random guy started talking to him, and he was telling him how he owns this kava bar, and they were talking about how cafes and stuff like used to have like a lot more events where they would invite in authors or people with PhDs or anything to like come in and speak, and have like events at like coffee shops. You used to do that a lot more, and have these big events. And this guy on the bench told this guy like, you should look into that for your kava bar. And the guy, the owner of the shop, was like, wow, yeah, that's a great idea. And that as he was like walking in to the shop, because this guy's very spiritual.
Wait, did both of these men own kava bars and they met each other?
No, it was like a random guy. No, it's okay. I don't know if I'm being clear. The owner of the shop was sitting on a bench waiting for the train, and this random guy next to him started talking to him. And he gave him the idea. He gave him the suggestion, like, you should start doing things that coffee shops used to do, like invite in authors, invite in speakers to like have an event. And this guy, the owner of the shop, owner of the kava bar, being very spiritual, the way he described it to us, he was like, it felt like this guy was like an angel coming to deliver me a message. Like how when you encounter a random person and they kind of just, it's like something inhabits their body. They're there to deliver you a message, and then they go away. And it was a message. And so this guy felt like that interaction was very divine. He took the note of it, and he was like, oh, okay, the universe is telling me I should start hosting events like this and start getting people in like this to the shop. But he was like, where am I going to find people like that? Like, where am I going to find someone with a PhD? And then 20 minutes later,
you show up at his coffee bar.
Yeah. And so then he tells us this whole story. And I didn't realize until I didn't realize till like halfway through the end of the story that this happened half an hour ago. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like, when did that happen? When did that interaction? When did that guy tell you that? He was like, it was like 20 minutes ago, right before I walked in and saw you guys. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so, yeah. And so then here I am, like, we're having this amazing conversation. We're all getting on so well. And I'm telling him that this is what and so then he was like, do you want to speak to people here? Like, do you want to do things like that? And I was like, yes, I'm starting to build my career around public speaking and all of this stuff. And so, yeah, exchange contact info to potentially set up something for the future if you would host some event. But it was just like so crazy and synchronistic, that whole interaction happened. And just also the fact that this guy really, because of his way of thinking and because he's so spiritual, he really took this encounter with this random gentleman on the bench waiting for the train. He really interpreted that as, wow, that was a sign from the universe. The universe just told me through this guy that I should look into this for my kava bar. And so I'm going to do that. And then, bam.
Yeah, it was really a sign to the universe, because he was like, oh, yeah, like he got the intuitive hit, as well as in his body was like, yeah, I'm going to act on that. So then the next step was brought to him and shown to him, because there is something about that too, when, like when you make a decision and you decide, and then the universe, brings to you, or things move around you to bring to you when you make that decision.
It feels like, too, an acknowledgement. When you acknowledge signs from the universe as divine, signs from the universe as when it feels like it's for you, when a message feels like it's for you, and you acknowledge that, it gets you're strengthening your communication with the other side. You're strengthening that telephone line, and that's how things further and things keep moving and everything. So yeah, it was just like, the whole thing was just such a beautiful experience. And when we walked out, I was like, oh my God. And it was just so new. It was so new for me to come across a new person in physical life, in real physical life. That's not just people on the spiritual community and the internet. And it was just like, wow. It really felt like some New Earth vibes. It really felt like, wow, there are people like me. Like, there are people that like get it and that I can have these cool conversations with, and they're not so far away, and they're not, maybe aligning with soul family in real physical life is not so far away, and we talk about this all the time, me and you, like, yeah. We don't have many people that we feel extremely close to, soul family, soul friends in real life. And and kind of just have that trust that it will come when it's time. It feels like it's like an in-between we're waiting for them to show up in real life. But it was just like so cool. And I was like, wow, what a universe moment.
Yeah, that is a super cool, synchronistic connection experience that you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotta wrap up soon.
Yeah, we can. Do you want to talk about anything else, like your trip back to school or the job stuff or any of that?
I'll mention briefly. Yeah, I'll close with the nice story of what my friend said to me about how I've impacted him, and then we'll close after that, because I do have to go.
Yep, that sounds great.
Yeah, so just another positive story. I was visiting my college friends this past weekend, and they had a party, and So, like we just coming off of this whole story about how none of my real life friends are really on the same wavelength, or it's not even necessarily, what's coming to me now is it's not about needing to be like-minded as people.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like it's nice when that happens. It's not about like I need you to be on my wavelength. It's about
Yeah.
being understood. It's about being seen, right?
Yeah.
It's that you want to feel seen, and especially in the last few years when we've both expanded into this really intense level of spirituality and growth, and we just now don't really feel understood by people fully. And it's like some of the people that I've known for a while, and like these college, because there are other aspects where we do feel understood, and our personality and our hearts can still be understood by people that have known us for a while, because like I'm not the same in that, I'm not different in that sense. Like I still have the same personality, but there's a level of wanting to be understood. And yeah, I feel like, and seen. And I feel like it's more about that when it comes to the desire of of finding people in real life, or finding people that like understand this newer, expanded version of us. So, most of my college friends, some of them are open to spirituality, but not really ever applying it to their life or not really practicing anything. But I've been this way for a while, and with these friends, I've been open. Especially as things have expanded in the last few years, I'll show them my crystals. I'll talk about crystals. I'll bring in the spiritual stuff, and it's all just usually it has been kind of in jest, or just yeah, just more like in a really lighthearted way, that I'll bring it in, or I'll say something and completely know that they like don't really get it, but it'll just like have the energy of like, oh yeah, that's just Alyssa, like being Alyssa again, kind of one of those things. But then in the last year, a few of them have really kind of taken to their own curiosity and expansion of their mind and just thinking deeper things. And like a year ago, some of them like have said to me that they like apologizing for apologizing if they ever made me feel like badly for the way that I think and my beliefs, because they didn't understand it then, but they understand it
Wow.
now. And also like they've gotten into tarot cards in the last year, and so in a more jokey way, it's been this thing like a year ago, and in the last year, them getting into tarot cards and doing these readings and feeling like they're so accurate, and they're like, Alyssa was right, she was right. And I'm like, ha, yeah, I was.
That's really
And
cool.
I'm like, yeah, magic is real. Yeah. So just like cool things like that I didn't necessarily expect, because I didn't know. And I also felt like I was at a good point in my friendship with these people, that I didn't really feel ostracized or anything by them. So I still felt understood, like I was just saying, on that core personality level, where it was like, yeah, we still all get each other. And but so another one of them, um this past week, want wanted to, yeah, we kind of were having like a really nice little heart to heart, and he said, I want to thank you for giving me the languaging to understand, kind of, now I'm paraphrasing, but to understand this shift that has taken place in my life. He said the last year of his life has been the best year of his life yet. And that it's because he feels like he's started applying these spiritual beliefs to his life. And I believe he did mention something about that he really feels so connected to his heart, and he feels like he's like living from his heart. And ever since applying these things, he's had the best year of his life, and he feels like feels like so full of love. And he said, I want to thank you for giving me like the languaging to understand it, to like put it, I guess, in more context in a way, almost like I paved some way to either make it okay or to help him understand like exactly the shift that was going on. And yeah, and he like was very genuinely wanting to thank me for that. And then also later he did also want to apologize again, like, oh no, yeah, he wanted to apologize if before that he ever made me feel less than because of these things, or ever made me feel like bad that I believed in these things when he didn't understand it yet. And I really appreciated that. They never really did, because like I said, it was the relationship about it was usually just all in jest, and it was usually just like joking, and I never really felt super ostracized by them about this. But yeah, it was just like the best compliment I ever could have gotten. And I don't think I knew that I was doing that for them. Like, I know that maybe recently I'm doing that more online, or I just, it kind of just goes to show, like, you never know who you are impacting positively. And
by being
also,
yourself, right?
Yes,
by
just
speaking
by being
your
yourself.
truth and expressing your truth, and you just did that for yourself because that's the way you are. You didn't do it to impact them or to change them. But for them, yeah, that's a really special moment for your friend to come back and acknowledge it too, because your friend could be along this path and not ever say something to you. Right. But I think that's really big of him, and also a really special moment to, because he is being like, in that moment, like, I see you, right? I see you, and I really see you. And
yes,
I don't know if you can honestly hear something quite as just like cool as that, or like to have that understanding to be able to look at somebody and be like, I see you, or have someone look at you and say, I see you. Like, whew, that's powerful.
Yeah, it was like, it feels like so good. And yeah, and it just the aspect of it that's so cool is just knowing that, like, I guess by me going first, in a sense, it reminds me of this thing, something that I saw on Instagram, like being a light worker or a way shower, like, doesn't mean that it means that you go first.
Yeah.
Something like that, you know?
Yeah. I pull cards like that all the time. And I'm just like, fuck. Because it's like, I know over and over. It's like they're like, the path isn't clear because you're not following in someone else's footsteps. You're not following behind someone else. Like, you're a path, you're a forager or I don't know if the forager, I don't know, but like that, like, your path is to clear your own path. And it's just like, oh, whoa, wow.
Right. It means you go first.
You go first.
And me going first in this case was, still being completely firm in my beliefs and proudly showcasing them and talking about them, and not filtering myself around these friends and everything. And just the fact that me doing that was able to, it also goes to show, like, the power of, like, seed planting, because it probably was sort of like a slow burn, that, like, the things I was saying were entering, like, the subconscious and creating, it was like I was creating some sort of context, or creating some some frame of reference. It was really that. It was like if I didn't create some frame of reference that he felt like was very adjacent and like accessible to him through me and through just the way that I speak about it, he wouldn't have necessarily known where to turn to understand any of these things. And it was just very, I had no idea that I was doing that. So it just goes to show, you never know who you are, like, paving a way for other people.
It's just the ripple effect, right? It's like you're not.
Yep.
I mean, our work is, we're not trying to change anyone at all. And this is even like when we're talking about our friends and stuff. I love my friends. Like, I have some good friends that I really love, but it is true that I don't talk about all of this stuff with them, because I just don't think that some of them would understand it. And that's also okay. Like, by us saying this, I'm not saying that I want to change my friends or they need to be something. They're perfect just the way they are, just as I'm perfect just the way I am. But I think for you and I, there also is that element of craving a connection where we can express ourselves in this way.
Yep.
And we're also seen, where we're seen for it. And I know I'm in that space. And I think that's also part of an awakening journey, because I think at the beginning of your awakening journey, you go into hermit mode. You want to be in a bubble. You don't really want to connect with it. You are connecting, but not the same. You want to be at home.
Right.
You want to be in your own space. You want to be, because you're like in the chrysalis, like you're birthing this new version of you. And then when you come out, you're like, I want to connect. I want to have the conversations. I want to have the intimacy. And I'm feeling that too in my current friendships, as well as calling new connections in. And this might be my intense Scorpio that I'm really leaning into now, but I kind of want intense friendships, not even like intense, but I want to have the back and forth, like conversations. Like I want to be intimate. Like, how are you doing? How are you really doing?
You're designed that way for a reason. So,
yeah,
totally.
And I want to have the conversations too. Like, what do you think about death? Like, how do you feel about death? What do you think about the afterlife? Like, what do you do in your spare time to connect with yourself? How do you connect with yourself? Who are you, like, on a soul level? Like, I crave to have these conversations with people now within my relationships. And so maybe that will evolve in some of my current relationships, and maybe I will call in and meet soul connections where that is meant to happen. But
like, what it makes me think of, I sort of had this realization when I was needing to like explain a little bit about my life path to people at my school. It's like this is the way that we think. Like me and like you and your depth and your things with like the depth and just the spirituality, and then me also like with the universe, and like everything I kind of break it down to like this physicsy concept, and this is what I'm curious about, and this is what keeps me up at night. And it was like this feeling of like, why do I need to feeling like I need to defend the way that I think and the way that I am. And it's like, this is just how my brain works, and this is what I think about, and this is how I think. And we shouldn't need to defend the way that we think.
No,
like we shouldn't need to defend it.
And with that, it's not that we shouldn't, but we don't have to. So I think with this rebirthing of even this transformation with the eclipse and like what we're navigating and going through, there's also this element of, can we release like the resistance of feeling like we can't? Because it is our choice what filter we put on and what we talk about and stuff around others. And maybe there's a fear in us that some relationships or connections might fall away if we shine our true authentic self. I'm not saying that for sure, but I know just in general, a lot of people have kind of that fear. Well, if I'm my true authentic self, what's going to fall away around me, or who's not going to resonate with me? So I think there is some level of resistance maybe around that too, of just you being like, oh, I don't need to or I shouldn't have to defend this. But it's like, you don't need to defend that. You get to be every piece of your true self and be fully accepted and embraced for that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the energy. It was like, because, and this is the thing, saying it in the first place, because of the conditioning and because of just the environment that we've been in so far, it's like saying it in the first place makes me feel like I'm gonna need to like defend it. And maybe sometimes you do, or maybe you are like questioned or whatever in life, but it's like, you don't have to, it's like, you can also just say it and it be okay, because that's just the way that you are. I think that's also a piece of it. It's like, we think that we have to defend it.
Well, I think
it's going to be this fight.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at, is it's also what piece of that is a limiting belief for us too, because we can be expressing and being ourselves already in the 5D frequency, in the new earth frequency, and just be accepted and be in this version of self. But we also have, where I'm feeling into this resistance or this limiting belief of, we can't do that. So it's kind of like bridging that, right? Because we, like there's also certain places that maybe we feel like we're not going to be held, but if we give it the chance, like maybe they can hold us, even if they don't fully understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
And that's okay too, because like we're all on different parts of our journey. So it's also an acceptance of that, right? Like nobody has to be exactly where I'm at to connect with them. However, there definitely is like instances where I think it's just being seen in, you're like, yeah, I think about the numbers and shit. You're like, you're like, I think of the physics of things in the universe, and this what keeps me up at night. And I'm just realizing, well, I've known this before, but like more just like embracing my true self. Like, I don't like small talk. I fucking don't like small talk. I don't want to do it. Like, even if you're a new person, like I want to talk to you about what keeps you up at night and what your deepest fears are. And I want to go there. And that's just who I am. And that's okay. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's a great note to end on. Kind of made a full circle with this episode in a way of this rebirth.
Yeah,
but
just a little catch up.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Anything else to add?
No, I don't think so for today.
Yeah. Not for today. Okay.
I would say to our followers, to our listeners, if there's any topics that you guys want us to talk about, please DM us on the at the Orphic podcast on Instagram and let us know, because if we have ideas of like topics or things that you want us to touch on and hear our take on it or what we think, that would be really awesome, because that gives us something also to speak to and something that we know that our audience or our listeners are going to want to hear about. So
yes, definitely DM us. So yeah. All right. So give us, please be sure to, well, first off, thank you for listening. If you're at this point,
thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And please be sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen, and give us a review. Oh yeah, we're gonna circle back to another giveaway, but let's just plant the seed right now. We're gonna do another giveaway for reviews, and stuff like that. That's gonna be in the works. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that offline. But anyway, yeah, please give us a rating, review. Subscribe. Every episode has a video version available on YouTube, so you can look at our faces. Go subscribe over on YouTube at the Orphic podcast. And yeah, my Instagram is at interdimensional.astrophysics.
Yeah, and mine's at Mariposa Moonchild. And follow both of us, like, comment, subscribe. Like Alyssa said, it really, really helps us out as we're like trying to grow. So if you find value in our content or resonate with us, or just like think we're cool and like us, please go over and give us a like, comment, or review. It really, really helps us. As well as, I said my Instagram is at Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. And also, if you'd like to work with me, I do past life regressions, soul activation readings, and energy medicine, energy healing work. So if you feel called to that, you can find me on my Instagram and book a session in with me too, as well as I'm opening up more one-on-one spots to do guided mentorships, guided spiritual mentorships, healing mentorships, very transformational shadow work, doing the deep stuff, because I'm in the intense Scorpio, but so if you feel called or guided to that, you just head over to my Instagram and connect with me there.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for being here, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.